Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Ecoffee with Experts. I am your host, Matt Fraser. And on today's show, I have with me a very special guest, Jason Bass. Jason is the founder and owner of Jason Hunter Design, a full-service web design and search engine consultant firm headquartered in Sharpsburg, Georgia. He has a Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree from Rutgers University and designed his first website after stumbling upon the book. I believe it was Building Websites for Dummies or something similar to that. When not building websites for his clients, Jason enjoys traveling, tackling DIY projects with his wife, going on hikes with their dogs, and touring breweries and distilleries with his friends. Jason, thank you so much. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, Jason, what would you say is the biggest difference between the person you were in university and who you are now?
Wow. My goodness. I'm proud to say that I'm still best friends with all of the people that I was best friends with in college.
Oh, so wow.
I feel like as a person, I really haven't changed all that much. Although I was kind of known for being inspirational and motivating and awesome. Just positive all the time. And I will say that I have allowed life to beat me up just a little bit. It's a little bit harder for me to go back to those positive, optimistic views all the time, but I do center myself and get myself back there, and I'm able to support the people around me in that way. So I don't know that I've changed all that much, to be honest.
Cool.
We'll certainly talk about a lot of things that have changed in my life between then and now, I'm sure. Yeah. And that will have directly affected, the me. But
yeah. Well, one of the things is, go ahead.
No, please ask.
Oh, sure. Like you started off in majoring in correct me if I'm wrong, but you majored in graphic design, and and not that it's too far of a stretch, but I know that you eventually left your job as an art teacher to get into starting an agency. So that was a pretty well. I mean, you did some other things before that as well, but do you want to elaborate on that journey of working?
I mean, I can tell you that I knew from a really young age. Actually, I'll tell you that I was very young, going through my garage, probably spending time in the attic as a kid, looking for who knows what gems you'd find, right? And I came up on my mother's portfolio from her college experience, where she went to University of Miami for graphic design. And I remember seeing some of the stuff that she had done and thinking, wow, this is really cool, And so I think that really inspired me to go in the direction of art in general, graphic design specifically. Yeah. I loved, my senior year of high school, I can remember the one hallway where it was like home ec and graphic design and the two art rooms and like everything. And I don't know what you call that wing, right? But I spent my entire senior year going from the art room to the drafting room to the graphic design room. I discovered that in the graphic design room, there was a dark room for photography development. So they allowed me to basically open that. Open that lab back up. It had been closed for God knows how long. So I got this incredible education my senior year of high school of all these different types of art mediums. And when I went to art college, you mentioned I graduated from Rutgers, but there's an art school called the Mason Gross School of the Arts within Rutgers. And I left there with a BFA. My concentration was in graphic design. And as you mentioned, I stumbled upon the Websites for Dummies book at Barnes & Noble late one night. And that was literally the beginning of what later became my career. I got paid by a friend to build him a website. And when I looked at the check, I thought I can actually make a business out of this. So I went to the bank. They laughed at me because I wanted to open a business banking account without having actually created a business yet. Oh yeah. Luckily, Rutgers is in the county seat. So I walked around the corner, went upstairs to the clerk's office and started Jason Hunter Design, which Hunter, by the way, is my middle name. At the ripe age of like 20 years old, I thought, well, I got to seem bigger than I am. So I'll just add another name. People will think I'm a partner or something. But no, it's me. I'm Jason Hunter Bass. Hunter's my middle name. So I think starting out as a young business owner, I didn't really have the faith that this was going to be life sustaining. So I did other things. I had other jobs. And one of those jobs was working for another design agency. And because of my passion, my newfound passion for web design, that's pretty much what I handled for them. And
Okay.
I have the utmost respect for the man who hired me, but I learned a lot about how not to run a business in that time. And
Uh,
I have taken those lessons with me. But, to pay the
can
bills, I was a high school substitute teacher. Actually, it wasn't
okay.
limited to high school. I was a substitute teacher.
Yeah.
And that led me to become a full-time teacher. And I absolutely loved being a high school art teacher. I still have room in my heart for some of those kids, but
Oh yeah.
it was exhausting to go to school for, what did I have to be there? Probably 7:30 in the morning. I would get home by 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I'd be on the computer doing the web design business until sometimes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, to only repeat it every day, Monday through Friday. Not
Oh
to mention, I
wow.
was also in my early 20s and wanted to have fun with my friends. So
Yeah.
weekends were filled, fun times. We'll leave it at that. But I
Yeah.
couldn't, that wasn't sustainable. I needed to make a choice. So I decided to resign from teaching and pursue my business full time. And my goodness, that was back in probably 2003 at this point. So
Wow.
approaching the 20-year mark.
What were without being too I don't want you to throw anybody under the bus, but you'd mentioned some of the mistakes of what not to do when running a business without.
Can I elaborate on that? Yeah, I think it's
Yeah, could you elaborate
ironic.
without disclosing
Yeah,
and
yeah. No, I actually, now as a business owner, a lot of the things that I thought I was learning not to do are things that are, well, let's put it this way. My desk was in his basement of his home. 20 years ago, that was faux pas. Today, it's like commonplace, not a big deal, right?
yeah.
But at the time, it felt very uncomfortable. I had, his kid was in a playpen in the same room where I'm sitting at my desk
Oh,
doing work.
that's
And
yeah. That
it
I
was
don't even
just,
think that would be acceptable today. But anyway,
you never, now with working from home because of COVID
yeah,
and everything, I feel like anything goes, but it was uncomfortable at the time. Then we moved into an actual office space, which I think he
yeah.
did to satisfy the employees that he had brought on. And I
Uh,
don't think that he was financially ready for that. And we wouldn't get
okay.
paid. So it would be Friday payday and we'd be waiting for our checks, and his wife would be running errands and not making it in before it was 5 o'clock, and we'd all want to go home. So we'd have to wait until possibly Monday to get our checks. And then,
Oh,
finally he started being a little bit more honest with us about, the money coming in. And that was more acceptable than just these
yeah.
excuses that, his wife couldn't make it in time. So, I never really got to learn much from him from a client facing perspective. I never really got to see how he interacted with clients. I was just essentially given these projects to execute.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good thing or not, I went there to learn from him, and I never really got a whole lot of direction from him. Um, there was no process in place for anything, right? So I'm
Oh,
learning, I'm seeing now as a business owner how important those things are. And I
yeah.
knew that I didn't want to hire somebody or yeah, I wouldn't want to lead anybody without having things in place. So I would like to think that I learned a lot about what not to do from that experience.
And sometimes sometimes those are valuable lessons to learn what not to do.
Oh yeah.
You know, some of the
Yeah.
things I've learned in my life have been very painful lessons of the way other people have treated me about how I'm not going to do that to other and treat
Actually,
people that way and operate that way or whatever. So what did you do to in your own business? So here's a very interesting thing. Um, Running a business is hard. You know that. Figuring out your cash flow situation as to when you can and cannot afford to bring someone on is not an easy thing to do. So what systems and processes that you mentioned have you put in place or learned along the way in order to avoid not being able to write somebody their paycheck?
um,
Like there were the resources you took up or training or
definitely no training.
Okay.
Books probably that I've read. I've got a very rich dad, poor dad life upbringing.
Yeah.
That book,
Me
that
too.
book really meant a lot to me. It resonated a lot with me, and I absolutely love my two dads for a lot of the same reasons and a lot of different reasons. And
Yeah.
as the book would coin the term "poor dad," we were never poor, but he made decisions with money that were poor. So and then the other dad was an investor and has learned how to make money from our money. So I literally have that rich dad, poor dad's mentality. So
That is
I
awesome.
tend to think of things as investments.
Yeah.
So I think from a comfort factor, I don't like I wouldn't spend $1 unless I had $2 in the bank. And I'm more or
Yeah.
less likely to spend that $1 because I want $2 in the bank. So
Yeah.
that being said, when I'm ready to take on a new employee, I like to know that I've got double their salary available, because I want to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a position where if all the work dries up, that I can't live up to my commitment to them.
Yeah.
So that's sort of one piece of it. The other piece of it is really, as your business grows and you start to understand value of things, the amount of money that you can charge for something should leave plenty of money to make sure that all the people who are involved are eating, right? That we're all
Yeah.
getting paid enough to survive. And then we started expanding our service offerings to things that offer more residual income and things of that nature. So I wouldn't say that I have a formula or a process in place, although,
Okay.
I really do like to think of it in terms of security and just make sure that I've got padding before I go and add somebody into the mix without, I just need to feel confident that I can live up to my promises to them.
I like that $2 for every $1. And, you could even take that. That's that's a good principle. Or even like $3 before you spend $1, make sure you have $3 and, have double the amount, double the amount of revenue or money in the bank, to make it simple, as
Right.
to the employee's salary. That's really strategic.
But I do think that thinking of things in terms of investments, that's really the key.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. I don't just hire people because I think I need an extra set of hands, right?
Okay.
Like I want to invest in somebody who is going to help my company grow. So having somebody come in as the very first person I ever hired, well, actually, that's not true. The very first person I ever hired, ironically, worked with me in my basement. I didn't have any kids at the time, so it was very, felt a little different. But he Googled my business, or he Googled web design, found me, knocked on my residence front door, and said, "Is there a web design company here?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, yes." He was also self-taught, and he came to work. And when he wanted to, he could work from my basement, but otherwise he could work from his house, which happened to be around the corner. The first time I hired a project manager was at the point when I realized that I had too many projects to keep track of everything, and I was dropping the ball, and that was not okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, I still to this day, I do not feel comfortable taking money from a client unless they can feel the value right away. So a maintenance client gets a report every month that shows exactly what we did to keep their site safe and secure. An SEO client results in a form of a beautiful report, right? They don't just pay money and I wonder if they're working for us this month. Like that's just not
something.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I hire people strategically to make sure that all of the things that we're offering are being taken care of in a timely manner. So to date, I've got 2 project managers who are oversaw, I don't know.
Yeah.
By a director of operations. That person is also responsible for sales, both inside and outside. So she's got a lot on her plate at the moment. And our next growth would probably be to separate those 2 roles. I could see taking on more project managers as the number of projects we have increase, but we've got a lead SEO, we've got a lead social media person, digital paid ads. We've got people who are at the head of all of these different departments. And then that director of operations is who just makes sure everybody's communicating and everything is moving along. But it's really investing in the people who are going to help our company grow.
So staying on that line, what are some of the things you look for in people to bring on board? What are some of the key considerations you make?
I would say more than anything, well, let me say this backwards. I really don't care if you have a whole lot of experience in the industry. Okay. That's not as important to me as your innate desire to grow as an individual, right? Okay. I want you to be the kind of person that is not only looking at filling the role that I have, but also thinking about how you could enhance the business, right? So I want people who are going to bring new, fresh ideas to the table. I'm actually just thinking about an interview, a quarterly review that I just did with my latest hire. And I have a series of questions that I like to ask them every 3 months. And one of them is, what goals do you want to achieve between now and the next time we meet? And further than that, what are some personal growth areas that you would like to explore? Because I want to know how I can support them. If they're interested in cryptocurrency, then I want to see if I can put them into a course where they learn about cryptocurrency, because I can only imagine that that's going to help our business and how we communicate with our clients, right? So, really it's that go-getter, self-starter. That's the kind of person that I'm really looking for. I understand, again, going back to my Richard Kiyosaki reference, I understand the cash flow quadrant, that there are people who are in this world to be employees. And there are people in this world who are built to be business owners and investors. And they're typically very different types of people. Very different. Definitely, I'm looking for people who resonate with entrepreneurs, but don't necessarily have the desire to go off on their own. But I will tell you, at least twice, 2 of my people have gone off on their own, and I've done nothing but support them in that endeavor and hope for the absolute best success for them. And if we ever find ourselves bidding against the same projects, I mean, that would just be an exciting moment for me to see that they've gotten themselves to that. So,
well, you answered my question, because I was going to ask you about that. I was going to say, well, what do you do when, the type of people you're describing are usually in that entrepreneurial quadrant? So like what things, because not to say anything about people who have the temperament to be employees, I think you can still be an employee. You said you can still be an employee and be ambitious, but if you get people who are overly ambitious, they're going to leave, and they're just trying to, I've talked to people in agency owner in the Texas area. He went and became an instructor at one of the schools, technical colleges, to be able to feed himself possible future employees who would be have an internship, but gosh darn it, he'd invest in them, and 2 years later they'd be gone, and they'd be because they learned from him, and they're off, and maybe they got a better offer from someone else paying them more money, or I know that's a huge thing, that people are literally getting headhunted on LinkedIn and being stolen from smaller agencies and scooped up. Sure. Do you think, in your experience, is money the end all and be all for people working and being happy?
I definitely do not. And I think I really believe that this is a cultural thing, I mean, it's a cultural topic. I think for me, the business culture that we have within Jason Hunter Design is more, it's more supportive of the people than it is around. It's less money focused. Okay. I think it's more supportive of the people. In this quarterly review that I just mentioned, the ones that I've done with my other employees, I really want to know from them where they feel our roadblocks are, what I personally could be doing differently to make it easier for them to work with me. And the feedback is consistently, I absolutely love my job. I have no complaints whatsoever. I love it, the people that we work with. I even love the clients that we take on. And I'm like disappointed by those answers, because I really want constructive criticism. But at the same time, I'm so flattered that we've built this culture that's how my people feel. Now, that's not to say that they haven't asked for compensation raises. And honestly, I'm happy to give them if I feel like they have helped the business grow financially. I want to share in that. And sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not. But
are there any other methods you find to be effective in retaining staff besides financial compensation?
I do things for clients and for employees that I feel like pay attention to the details and really make them feel rewarded. So for instance, when a client signs on with us, we send them a customized welcome box in the mail. It has a fun thing in it, and they scan a QR code that brings them into the digital part of our process and asks them some personal questions like their birthday or their work anniversary. And we send them little trinkets and things just to let them know we're thinking of them. But I can't just do that for clients. So I do that for the employees too. Like just a random Wednesday box will arrive to just say, you're doing a great job and I appreciate you. Or if we have a team meeting, taking them out to lunch, doing things that I don't think every other place of employment does or thinks about. And I think, I like being recognized in those ways. So I just want to make sure that my people go the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really neat. That's a really neat idea. What you just shared there of sending the box and that regard. I know that I'm a big fan of direct response marketing and Alan Dibb in his book One-Page Marketing Plan talks about using, and I think he got the idea from Dan Kennedy. He even says as such, but using a shock and awe package. And sometimes people use a shock and awe package pre-sale, like to get the sale. But it sounds like you're using something similar post-sale to like just to press the crap out of them to provide value.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't want to spend money and invest in somebody who isn't certain they want to work with us. Yeah. So sending it as a pre-sale that feels like a bet to me. Like I would just be taking a chance. And I really, the clients, the reason my people feel like we have really good clients are because they choose to work with us because they've learned enough about us that they have made a decision that we're the ones that they want to do the job. And I want to reward them for that, for seeing who we are and trusting us. So that's where that comes into play. And it is very much appreciated. It's, I think really, I just did a talk on this a couple of weeks ago, but it's really all part of our branding, right? Yeah. Including like typically what I send in the box is a vanilla scented candle. Does a web design company have a brand scent? Probably not, but I think it's important to have somebody now associate a vanilla smell with the exceptional experience they get working with us, right? So it's a little subconscious play in there, but it's I think there's a lot of fun that you curate to send to people. Yeah,
no, it's really smart. You got me thinking, and I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. There's so many things I was thinking about that. With that being said, you had mentioned something interesting, like when people choose you, how do you differentiate? If someone's like asked, how do you differentiate yourself, Jason, in the market between the other companies that are out there that people should choose Jason Hunter Design over Acme Design?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I probably have a bunch of things I could list. I think for the most part, let me say that for a long time since I've had employees, I've got this incredible team. I've had a hard time thinking of Jason Hunter Design as me being the face of the company because we really are an incredible team. But I've spent a lot of years building a brand that I'm not willing to let go of. So I don't want to rebrand as something that is more generic and encompassing, right? So it really is me. And I can honor and respect that people feel comfortable with me. So I do think that I am a big part of why people choose to work with us. Me and there's only one me, right? But I think what makes me unique is that I have a heart for service and authentic connection with people. Cool. I just think that the energy that I bring builds community in unique ways that people just crave that. So like, I mentioned to you offline here, I do a lot of things for entrepreneurs. There's a lot of events that I organize. Where it brings people together to just be supportive of one another. And I'm not saying that I actually get a ton of business through those groups. That's actually not what happens. It's not the point. But I think that it helps the outside world see the kind of heart that I have. And I think that's what attracts people.
Yeah.
Once, then I think it really is a matter of the experience that people have with us, and that in turn turns into referrals and leads, right? And I think that the experience that you have with us is not just about getting little trinkets in the mail. The experience that you have with working with Jason Hunter Design is that we care about you as a client, and we want to communicate with you on a regular basis. Communication is a huge, huge issue with our competitors. From what I hear, they don't deliver on the things that we do. So we have a process. I'm sure that I picked this up from somewhere. I just don't remember who to give credit to, but I call it ECEM, every client, every Monday. That is the only job on a Monday. My project managers their only job is to go down their roster of projects and to personally connect with each client, giving them an update on where their projects are at. And if they have to put their tail between their legs and say, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to share with you, but this is our plan for the next week, then that's what that call will entail. It gives the client an opportunity to request a follow-up meeting where they can spend more time going through anything that's on their mind. But I don't know of any of my competitors that are that devoted to the client during the process, that it's not just about coming up with a product to hand them and say, congratulations, here it is, go off on your own. We want to partner. We want to hold their hand, be with them all the way throughout. As they grow, we grow. The more we can do for them, the bigger they grow. And that just in turn helps us grow too.
Is that one of the keys to success of retaining clients and avoiding client churn? Is the communication and the establishing that relationship and maintaining it?
I think 110%. The answer is yes. Another thing I'll say, which kind of plays into it, is we don't believe in contracts. Certainly, we have an agreement. I want you to sign the agreement so that you understand what my responsibilities are, what your responsibilities are. But we also don't believe in contracts. So that means that if you're signing up for one of our ongoing services, like our website care plan or SEO or social media or digital paid ads, any of the things that are monthly recurring type services, you can cancel at any time. Do you know how many people actually cancel?
Not very many.
Not very many.
Yeah.
And most of those that don't cancel, the ones who stick around, are not only sticking around, but they're doubling down because they see the value that they're getting and they want to put more into it, knowing that they can get even more out. So I think it absolutely works. Clients love to have open communication, and they love to feel the results of their investments with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't believe in contracts either. If people aren't happy with you, I mean, I prefer 30 days notice, but if people aren't happy with you, that's one of the number one, what's the word I'm looking for? Complaints, if you will, for lack of a better word right now, of business owners is at least from my experience when I was working at the car dealership. Previously to me getting there, he would get signed into these 12-month contracts, engagements where the marketing agency would promise the world and deliver nothing. And then, but you're locked in. And what I mean by that is they would their version of SEO was showing him a Google Analytics report with traffic. Well, anybody could go and bought traffic from Fiverr.com. But he was so ignorant, and not to mean that means he doesn't know. He was so I don't know a polite synonym. I'm not trying to use it as pejorative. He was so uneducated, I guess you could say, or not knowing that he didn't know until I showed up, and you get burned. So I hear you on that. I think and I commend you for that, because in some ways it takes guts to not, because they're probably seeing that you're at risk a little bit there, Jason, because you're putting your money where your mouth is. Because
not for nothing. There are lots of tools that I invest in on an annual basis. So when I allow clients to come and go, I am taking a big risk. It's a lot of energy and manpower to have our teams get in line to serve these clients. So if they leave, especially after a short while, that really is a huge inconvenience, but it is a risk that I'm willing to take, because again, our clients are people who trust us, and they're the kinds of people that we want to be working with. So we will always show up and do our best, and we're always going to be transparent and forthright with anything that's going on, so that you know what to expect. Contracts. I mean, I am very happily married, but I think contracts are just a way of keeping people putting money in your pocket. It's a guarantee that they're not going to go anywhere, or they're going to have to jump through a lot of hoops to break away. And that doesn't feel good. Like even a marriage, you shouldn't stay in a marriage if you don't feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially. Yeah, exactly. If you're, I'm married too. But I know the challenges of being married, but like, we'll put it this way, if somebody is treating you like absolute garbage, consistently, and not living up to their agreement, like, I know the traditional wedding vows aren't everything everybody upholds to, but if people aren't loving you and creating and honoring you, in that regard, and they're just treating you like a piece of crap, I can use stronger language, then it's, very difficult to stay in that relationship. And I guess it's the same thing with clients, isn't it? We need to value them, value the dollars they're spending in regards to the products they're getting, in regards to the websites, as well as the services after the fact, to provide that value and honor the money that they're giving us to see them succeed.
Exactly.
That's what it's about. And handcuffing them to a contract, and which in many ways is not in the best interest of the client. And a lot of agencies unfortunately do that. Well, you're on a contract. Well, yeah.
No one's going to feel good about that.
No one is. Yeah. What do you think about the future of web design? Like okay, here's interesting. You and I have been doing this for a long time. I told you off camera how long I've been doing it for. We've been doing this since before there was responsive websites. So it's amazing to see how we've moved to a mobile first.
Google, I gave.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you think is the future trend for websites? Like, I was talking to my wife the other day, and I don't know if this is like, you can plead the fifth if you want. Like, if you don't have to answer this question, I'm not going to incriminate you. We're just joking around. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to. But like, we were talking yesterday, and we were talking about the metaverse and Web3 and all that stuff. And like, I'm like, my wife's name's Ria. I say, Ria, like, it's going to get to the point where I don't even know what websites are going to look like. For instance, you have the Amazon store is going to be turned into a metaverse shopping mall, where you put on these VR headsets and you go inside the store and you're adding things virtually to your cart, shopping from, instead of a mouse and a keyboard. Like,
yeah.
What do you like? It's much.
So I'll tell you that I don't know how. I feel like this was when I was in college. So TiVo had come out, right? And TiVo, I mean, they failed, and I can't really explain why, but that was revolutionary, where you could pause television, rewind, fast forward. I mean, that technology didn't exist. But it got me thinking that even at that point, right, 20 years ago, that at some point we would be able to watch television and click on an article of clothing that an actor was wearing in a specific scene and buy it right then and there. And I wasn't entertained by trying to figure out how to make that happen. But I think Instagram shopping is probably the closest that we've come to that now, because you can actually shop off of media, right? So we're pretty close. I still think it would be cool to select a shirt and have the algorithm find the shirt rather than the marketer being the one to say, here's this item for sale.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that's cool. If somebody's listening and they decide to build it out, just give me credit for it. I'd love to be involved in some way. I'm not trying to invent the technology, but I think, I think that you're right. I think that I actually have a big problem with that, though. Like, I'm not
sure.
For a hot minute, I really wanted to get into the metaverse, and I thought, like, what could I do? I'm a community guy. Could I build a mall and all of my clients have a little vendor booth so that we can all be in this space? Like, is that something I offer them, I could design them avatars, and I could do all this stuff. And it didn't feel exciting to me. It felt daunting and exhausting. And when I stepped back and looked at what it meant to me, is that you're creating yet another opportunity for people to create false identities. And that's not authentic. And I have a big problem with that. I am a very big believer in authenticity. And I think that when you put on an avatar to represent you, you're right away, you're putting that out the window. And as a father, I'm worried about that. As a marketer, I guess it's exciting to think about, marketing things to people who are in that space, but I kind of have a big problem with the whole concept of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's lots of positive things, right? Like you can join other people in a room and literally be like working on building a car or operating. Like you can learn a lot in this virtual room.
Yeah.
I think that is in an experience that just belongs over here as an experience. I don't think that it's the way of the future and that everybody should be thinking about how to get in on it. Because that's not where I want to be. Like, I don't want people to be stuck in their houses with VR goggles on. And, I want them to be in rooms with people shaking hands and making real life connections, giving hugs. Like, that's what matters.
Yeah, if anything, that's what COVID taught us, was that human connection matters, And, there's an article that was written recently by a business professor. I think he's from Harvard. And he was talking about how Mark Zuckerberg is ruining Facebook. And I think Mark has his focus on the wrong thing right now. And, who am I to say that? Well, the amount of valuation that has been lost in equity in market capital from his company, $72 billion. I think he's banking. I think his focus right now is on the metaverse, and he's banking on it, thinking that it's going to be the next big thing. And as I was talking to my wife, like, business is everything, and business timing is everything. And he had the right timing with Facebook, with social media. It was like the right time, the right technology. Yeah. Right now, I think he has the right technology, but the wrong time. Like he's thinking about it too far, and it's too far in the future to be putting as many resources and as much attention that he's paying to it, when really he needs to figure out what the hell to do. Excuse my language. What the heck to do about iOS 14 and the problem that it has created for the platform. That's a problem he needs to be focused. Drop the metaverse right now, Mark, and focus on that. Yes, Tim Cook has pissed you off, but I think you would agree the enemy of any entrepreneur is number one. And I think this has shown one of the weaknesses in Facebook's platform. They had one means of, yes, the Facebook pixel was on every single person's website, and rightly so, and whatever, and it was great. But now that one area of revenue has been taken away, and advertising. I mean, I killed it with Facebook advertising. I'm a huge proponent of it. I absolutely annihilated. What I mean by annihilate, I mean, like, we did so amazing, and in regards to bringing customers in the door, and nothing shady or nothing that didn't provide value.
Right.
It's because it was so targeted that it worked so well, because people were interested in what we had to offer and what I did. But so I'm a big proponent of it. But Tim Cook and the Cambridge Analytica and all that whole scandal that really caused everybody to start thinking about data and privacy and so on and so forth. I mean, he's really got to figure out a way to make the targeting on Facebook work again, because it's not working, and a lot of people are fleeing to. I'm sorry for ranting. It's just the things you're talking about, like with the metaverse and all that. You're right. Like it's
I just, from a marketing perspective, I think, if there's going to be people hanging out in those rooms, then you want to be the one there to talk to those people, to advertise and get in front of them. And I think that, that's essentially what marketing is all about, is just getting in front of the right people. And we got very accustomed to the third party cookie, where we could advertise to people that we didn't know. But I think actually, in some weird way, the first party cookie is much more valuable, and the wave of the future of the internet is in personalization, allowing the experience to be personalized and customized to that unique user. That to me feels much more authentic. Now, it's all programmed, So it's not like I'm hand delivering you something that I think is going to interest you. But, I'm a subscriber of one of those box food services.
Oh, sure.
And I've gone through, I'm not going to name them because I think they're all great, but I went from one to another to another. And the reason I've skipped, I mean, I'm talking about years of commitment to one of them. And then I skipped and I left because my own diet changed and I couldn't go in and program it to my new diet. So every time I'd have to go in and pick my meals, I was seeing options that I can't have. That's really frustrating. So I switched to a company that does do that. And that's exactly the point in what I mean by the wave of the future and personalization, right? Giving customers a way to make their experience personalized, customized for them is going to mean a whole lot more than just sending out an ad to a million people who might have visited a similar website at some point, right? Like that just, to me, that's inauthentic. That's throwing a lot of spaghetti against the wall, hoping something sticks. Where
absolutely.
If I can put a plate of penne in front of you because penne is what you prefer instead of spaghetti, you're going to be a long-term client.
There you go. It's interesting, like this whole thing with first-party data, and like we could go down that rabbit trail. I don't know if I will or not, but it's interesting to see what's going to happen as marketers with all of that. But you did mention something, personalization. I've heard it said, and I don't have any data. I wish I did, and I'm going to because I'm going to do some marketing. But using personalization in thank you pages with that increases conversions. And thank you, John, for your interest in our newsletter.
And go ahead. You have no idea. Like people, I don't think know how easy it is to do that, right? I mean,
yeah, they don't, but you and I do.
It's so easy to do. We just customized a membership program for a local restaurant that when you fill out the initial 3 questions, name, phone number, email, even phone number is not required, just email to tell us that you're interested in the membership. The next screen says, welcome, Matt. Let us tell you about why membership is so valuable, right? And then it takes them through a nice list that you can see all the benefits that you get from the membership. And then at the bottom is where it wants you to choose, enter more information about yourself so that you're essentially applying for membership. You have to be approved. But that little tiny bit of customization where it says, welcome, Matt, before it explains why it's important, why it should be important to you to join as a member, that little psychological, I don't want to call it a trick or a game. It just triggers. People love hearing their own name. When they read it in their head, they're hearing it and it means something.
Yeah. When I told you I was selling cars, and in sales, the number one thing you need to do, and even when I was in restaurants, I worked as a waiter, and I there was this study put out by some university in your city, in your country. I can't remember the name of it, but they're a hospitality university, and the 14 ways to increase your tip as a server, and I used them all when I read that, and one of them was using your name, using the customer's name, 100%. The guest's name. I always call them guests, but even when I was selling cars, man, the faster I remembered someone's name, the better. It was just you always said you had to make a friend before you can make a sale. And some people, it took me like 5 minutes. It's absolutely amazing that saying, the 6 degrees of separation. Like, I remember this one guy, like I was having a conversation and talking, and there was ways I did it. And, like this may sound manipulative, but if someone's looking at a car and they're at a dealership, the first question you want to ask them to get them to say yes is, are you looking for a car? Are you? You know what I mean? Of course they are. It's like, yes, they can't say no. And then you say, oh, sure. If it's cold outside, it's like, yeah, if it's cold outside, man, it sure is cold out today, isn't it? Yeah, it sure is. Or if it's hot, man, it sure is hot. They said yes twice. And so, yeah, you're looking for a car, yes. And then you're getting out, you're finding out why they're looking for that car, and you're creating a conversation. But the point I'm trying to make is that in that conversation, people would reveal details like, oh, yeah, I work here. It's like, oh, yeah, my dad works there. And I had no idea. Boom, instant friend. Took me 5 minutes. Yep, other people took an hour and a half, like just because of they are, you know what I mean? That's just the way it goes. Some people are different. But the point I'm trying to make is that in learning their name, making a friend, and the things you just talked about, personalization and using their name like that on thank you page, that's how you use the internet and use a website to make a friend and, to get them more personal and to get them like, this is us getting to know you better. This is us caring. This is us taking the extra effort, and it's so simple. Like you said, like I don't think people realize how simple it is.
Yeah.
Do you think that type of
I can add anything to that? It's so easy, and I don't think enough marketers are thinking about that and how they can use it. And the businesses that hire us certainly have they don't know. They don't even know to be thinking about it. So that's what I love the most. I sit and I listen to entrepreneurs talk weekly about their business, and I love hearing their passion. When we ask them how they're marketing the business, generally they have no idea what to do. They think they know what they need to do, but they don't really know. And when you really break it down and get into it and talk about all the different ways that you can relate to somebody to make this, to make them understand what it is that you have to offer and how it's going to affect their lives. Yeah. There's so many things. And it's funny that you got that from a sales course. I've never taken a sales course. And yet you still, as a human being, know the basics. Like people, there is a statistic. People they love to hear their name. The more times you can say somebody's name, the more comfortable you're going to make them feel. So why should that be any different if they're visiting your website?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I think personalization more and more is going to start to play a bigger factor and role, and as well as doing multi-channel marketing and maybe even multi-channel marketing platforms. And I know we could try to chase that rabbit trail, but I know we've come to the top of our hour here. And it seems like it went by so fast. But I would love to have you back on the show again to talk about it. There's so many other things we could talk about, like, the role of developing for personalization, the role of developing customer personas for the foundation of building websites, and the role that plays and the effectiveness of it, and so on and so forth. Because I'm sure, and the different design elements and effective design and future design for websites. Anyway, I would love to have you back on the show if you'd be so willing. But how can our audience connect with you online if they choose to do so?
Sure. Jason Hunter Design is the name of the company. You can find us at jasonhunterdesign.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Jason Hunter Design. And honestly, those are you'll have multiple ways of getting in touch with us if your first touch point is any one of those three places.
Sure. And my forgive. And you're on LinkedIn as well, in case people want to connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's a little bit harder to give you an address for, but if you search for Jason Hunter Design or search for Jason with Jason Hunter Design, you'll find the company or me. Okay,
and we'll make sure to put those links in the show notes.
Great, appreciate that.
But anyway, that being said, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Matt, this was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Right on.